Thank you so much for joining me on a topic of ethical and unethical communication. In the book, Technical Communication, published in 2011, Landon and Keurig spent an entire chapter discussing ethical communication. So what is ethical communication? In some situations, employees feel pressure to make a cheaper or unsafe decision instead of the right one. Unethical communication is very common. In some situations, it's exaggerating credentials, downplaying harmful effects on products, or having conflict of interest. There are 3 important points when it comes to unethical communication in the workplace. Those are the causes of unethical communication, how to handle ethical abuse, and the laws that regulate workplace communication. This leads to my first point, and that is what causes unethical communication. Some companies find it easier to do whatever it is necessary to succeed at any cost, especially employers pressuring employees to do something that isn't right. It's important to be aware that abuse can occur in the workplace and ways to avoid acting unethically. So just to name a few, exaggerating is one, falsifying data and using images to hide the truth, preventing informed decision making by the consumer. With that being said, critical thinking and ethical decision go hand in hand. Important to keep in mind that all parties and obligations are to be respected. When unethical situations are blurred, it's important that employees critically analyze all the options in order to communicate as ethically as possible. It is very important to know how to handle ethical abuse, and there's 2 choices that one can make in handling this. It can be resigning or going public, which is also known as whistleblowing. Though whistleblowing sheds a light on the situation in any company, it can also backfire. And many companies don't hire people who are blacklisted as whistleblowers. Employees that go public may experience extreme negative outcomes from employers, exclusion from projects, even threatened with legal action. Even with the negative outcomes, some employees don't regret going public. But luckily, there are current laws that protect whistleblowers, like the Labor Department. They protect employees from being punished from the employer. The Sarbanes-Oakley Act of 2002 protects against employers who retaliate against those employees. So now, knowing how to handle ethical abuse, I think it's important to be familiar with the laws that regulate workplace communication. According to the legal standards, characterizing the smallest acceptable behavior is enough. On the other hand, ethical standards claims that one wants the best practices of the company by describing ideal behavior. Following are a few examples of laws that regulate workplace communication. Those include copyright laws, liability laws, laws against libel, and laws against deception. These are important when it comes to the workplace communication. So now, knowing what unethical communication is, now it's easier to not only know how unethical communication is caused, but also ways to handle ethical abuse, and also to be familiar with laws that regulate workplace communication. I'd like to thank you again for joining me on a topic of ethical and unethical communication in the workplace.